Hello and welcome. My name is Lorraine Carter, as Daria has indicated, and I am delighted to have you this afternoon join us as we learn about an organization that might be able to assist you in your goals and objectives of pursuing education in Canada. Um, the particular organization is called Windmill Microlending. And the reason it's so, I think, important that we share this information with you is that I would assume that you are considering or may already be a student with McMaster continuing education. We're very proud of our courses and programs and think that there's quite a number of good opportunities for individuals who have quote unquote come from away to Canada and who are looking for an opportunity to take a course or a program at McMaster University. Regrettably, the way our particular unit is structured, the courses and programs are not available for OSAP. But that should not be a barrier, and that's why, in fact, Sydney Cole's talk in just a couple of minutes, I think could be very valuable to you. And please also share the word with colleagues and friends who might be seeking opportunity to study in Canada, but who come from international backgrounds. So if a person is here in Canada and of an international background, then the session that we're going to talk about is, I think, really valuable. Micro lending is maybe a concept that's familiar to you. It may or may not be. This particular organization, I would not be here if I didn't believe in it. It has been around since 2005 and has helped supported approximately 5,000 adult learners who have said, you know, I need some assistance in terms of thinking about my own learning, perhaps eventually leading to a credential that would be meaningful, practical, and helpful in Canada. And we're really delighted to be able to bring this information to you. It may be the first of a number of conversations that you have with Sydney or with somebody else at the staff level with the organization, and we hope that that very much leads to something that's really good and positive for you. So I've probably said enough and need to turn the microphone, if you will, over to Sydney to explain how this particular organization has come to be and what it might have to offer for you as a learner come to Canada and looking for opportunities to study and maybe needing just a little bit of guidance in terms of how to support that that learning journey from a financial point of view. So Sydney, I will turn things over to you with one other comment. I want you to know that we do have an individual who's probably going to be verbally quiet, but she'll be monitoring the chat room if in fact you have a question that you'd like to log there. Sarah McMath is a staff person in continuing education, and she probably knows our programs at a greater level than I do. So if you have a question that pertains specifically to a program that we offer or some of the process around McMaster continuing education, put that question in the chat box, and Sarah will be able to provide you the appropriate information. So Sydney, I will now actually turn things over to you and look forward to learning from and with you.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I want to thank also Lorraine for inviting me to speak. We connected not all that long ago. I am a fourth generation McMaster graduate myself, and so I'm really pleased to be welcomed back into this community of learning to tell you a bit about the organization that I work with. I'm the manager of key partnerships at Windmill Microlending. I'm relatively new to the organization, but it is an organization that I really and truly value in its proposition to help people develop their full potential and to make their way to opportunities that really reflect their experiences and knowledge and to be able to enable people to succeed on their both their professional and educational journeys. And I know that, you know, I may have graduated a long time ago, but I know that McMaster also sort of upholds its reputation, its world reputation as a well-known learning institution, and one that deeply, deeply cares about its students. And that's why we're here today. I am going to share my screen, and that way I can share with you a little bit more about the organization. And I'm hoping that now, just want to make sure that you can see. Can everybody just see the slideshow now?
Yeah, looks great.
Okay, great. So Lorraine did a really lovely job of introducing briefly the organization. Windmill has been around, as she stated, since 2005. It has helped over 5,000 learners be able to join with the learning opportunities that they seek in order to engage with employment opportunities that will help them on their career journeys. We offer loans up to $5,000, as Lorraine said, to folks who come from an international background. And though on that slide that says internationally trained professionals, it just means that could mean that you have a designation, a certification, a diploma, some sort of post-secondary recognition of any studies that you have done, and also that you are an immigrant to Canada with international background. So I didn't want there to be any, yeah.
I'm going to jump in. I think you said 5,000. It's 15,000, is it?
15,000. It's 15,000. Okay. My apologies. So yep, just to back up, that was up to $15,000, and I'll describe the lending framework a little bit more in detail as I go.
Perfect.
We have a really lovely story at Windmill, and the story is this one. Windmill was started by a single person named Maria Erickson, who was working as a clinical psychologist at a Calgary-based hospital. And in her conversations with the staff there, she was beginning to increasingly recognize that many of the staff who were providing, who were in sort of service positions in the hospital, were actually trained professionals at home who had immigrated to Canada and were not able to work in the professions that they were trained in at home because, you know, for a number of reasons. And often it was because their professional designations weren't recognized, or that being able to take the certification courses would allow them to be recognized as professionals in Canada were financially out of reach. So she and a number of her friends, literally 5 women sitting around a table, tried to figure out among them how they could help some of these folks. And what they came up with was talking to their friends and sort of scraping together some loans that they could provide so that the folks that they were working with could go and, you know, look at recertification opportunities or other training opportunities that would enable them to do the work that they were really trained to do. And so this is a sort of the beginning story of Windmill, and it's one that I find it's the reason I joined the organization, because of the nature of its foundational story and the work that it continues to do. So as I said, the organization was founded in 2005. We have organizations across Canada. We have offices across Canada. We have offices in Vancouver, in Montreal, in Calgary, and in Toronto. And we are looking to grow those offices. One of the great things about Windmill is that it does have a national impact. In other words, we have clients that come to us across Canada. Not only that, because of the situation that we're in, learners can engage in distance learning and not necessarily have to reside in the province in which they are accessing that educational opportunity. We are a lender that has a license to lend across the country, which is not always true of all lenders, which again just sort of enables us to cover the country, but also enable sometimes students and learners who are sort of broadly stretched out, but then can also access educational opportunities wherever they may be in Canada. So there are a number of things I believe that make Windmill unique. And, when we look at the comparison between what happens when one goes to a banking institution and what happens when one comes to us, is frequently there are a number of barriers that financial institutions may represent for folks who are looking for a loan. And, one of the hardest things for newcomers to Canada specifically is this the idea of having a credit history within Canada. And often that's not the case. And so Windmill is less interested in you having a credit history. In fact, what it is interested in doing is, if you don't have a credit history, helping you to build one and helping you to sort of build your own financial reputation in Canada, which then, can often lead to other opportunities, but makes you often sort of establishes your credit and makes you a sort of a financial presence here in the country that you can use further down the road in terms of accessing a mortgage or another lending opportunity from a bank. And again, Windmill really, the criteria for banking loans is not, and I don't want to say that it's not stringent at Windmill, but what we're saying is we're trying our best to remove barriers to lending rather than putting them up. And so you'll see on the right side that, often you're here, or our clients are here because they are underemployed. They are working in scenarios in which they're being underpaid and underemployed precisely because they can't access job opportunities that they would like to, because they're missing the skill or the credential that they need to do that. Again, sort of looking at that asset issue with banking institutions, Windmill doesn't require you to have any assets in order to secure a loan. And you also don't have a cosigner. You don't need to have one. You can sort of come in and stand on your own merit when you come in and speak to a client success coach. So the criteria that we do have is that you be currently living in Canada. You may not apply from outside of Canada, even though you want to take a course at McMaster. You have to be currently residing in Canada. You don't have to be residing necessarily in Ontario. You just have to be residing in Canada. Internationally trained, again, trained is a word that we often sort of associate with professional designations. In our case, it's just that you've received a portion of your education outside of Canada, typically that post-secondary portion of your education. That you also have permanent resident status, or that you be a Canadian citizen, a provincial nominee, a protected person, or a convention refugee. Our lending program is actually interest-free to refugees who are coming to us for opportunities and loans. The issue around Canadian citizenship, which I also think is really important for some of you, is that your immigration story needn't not have begun recently. There is no cap in terms of when you arrived in Canada. The issue is whether or not you did receive your education outside of Canada. But even if you came when you were 8 years old, what we are trying to do is remove those barriers that Canadians who were born here don't experience quite so broadly. So what our client success team will also do is take a look at the skills and experience that you are bringing to your application. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But one of the things I really value about Windmill is that it's not just a matter of providing a loan. We like to say at Windmill that once you come in our door, you really join the Windmill family. And what I love about us is that, different from a banking institution that sort of looks at your criteria to be a lender, we're really engaging in a personal relationship with our clients that begins once you start your application and once you begin a relationship with our client success coach. And a client success coach will do a number of things when from the outset, which will, to start with, be sitting down with you and looking at your learning plan and trying to sort out with you what that precisely is, and looking at how we can support you in accessing all of the knowledge and all of the additional supports that you will need to continue on in your learning plan. The other thing that we do is we offer financial we offer financial literacy coaching, which is not something that a lot of other institutions do, or certainly the banks do. And so what I'm saying is, as a client, you're being invited into an opportunity of support that goes beyond just the fiscal or the financial support. So let's look at the ways in which our loans can be used. And this really is obviously of the most interest to you as learners who are looking at taking continuing education courses and programs at McMaster. So we can fund up to 2 years of education and training. And the funding can include, so there are a number of other sort of sub items that can be funded under this umbrella. We can also, you can also use that funding for licensing fees and qualifying exams. You can use that funding for language courses. Sometimes, you know, for lots of people looking to engage in the Canadian educational context, they may need a step up in terms of their English language skills or French language skills, and you can apply your loan to that as well. Travel expenses while you're taking a course are also covered, but in this context now, while we're looking at a lot of online learning, that's not necessarily as applicable. Books, courses, materials, software that you may need to download to take your course are covered by our loans. The other thing too is if you need a laptop or a computer at home because you don't have the one that you need or that can handle either from a software perspective or just, you know, maybe it's outdated or outmoded and can't handle sort of the things that you need to do from a learner perspective on your computer, our loans will cover the cost of a new laptop. We also cover the cost of professional association fees once you get out from your continuing education program. You know, this applies to, for example, the project management course. You know, those fees are very expensive. So your preparation course is one thing, but once you come out into and you want to have your professional management designation, you need to not only pay for those exams, but also the association fees that relate to that particular program. We also cover relocation costs for employment. So let's say you've gone through the program at MAC, but your training and your continuing ed program has trained you in one particular, that allows you to meet your sort of career goal, but that career opportunity actually comes in a different city. So we are also prepared to help you pay for some of the relocation costs for that. One of the other things that I would like to raise right now, because we know that women have been, you know, disproportionately impacted by COVID at the moment, that I'm really happy to also say that childcare expenses are also eligible under Windmill. And it's really important to me to say that. It's not on our slide. I've asked the marketing department to please add it, because to me, it's foundationally important that we recognize the particular challenges that women are having in accessing educational and employment opportunities, because they don't have the means to either pay for childcare or they don't find it readily available to them. So that's really, I think, a really important thing to add there. So in terms of talking about the loan framework itself and the repayment schedule as such, we have different rates of repayment depending on the amount that you loan from Windmill. And so you're looking at, for a loan that is $7,000 and less, the typical repayment schedule sort of stretches out to roughly 2 years. And if you're looking to repay a $15,000 loan, for example, that repayment term extends up to 4 to 5 years. Our loans are variable loans based on the RBC Prime Business Rate, which is set at right now it fluctuates, and so therefore our loan rate is also variable based on that rate, but also the prime rate of 1.5%. So right now our current interest rate, as you can see there, is 3.95%. Unlike banks, you will find that there are no administration fees or extra charges. at Windmill at all. You are not penalized for paying off your loan at any time if that time falls shorter than the originally designated repayment schedule that we've worked out with you in your personal plan. And additional money can be taken if you need to. So what you may have said, you know, okay, I think I only need $2,000 to take this course at McMaster University. And then you think, you know what, that's only phase one of the program. I want to continue on. So I'm going to go back to Windmill. And yes, absolutely, we can renegotiate that loan for you so that you can continue to take additional courses. The other thing too is another thing that I really value about the organization is that, you know, life happens. Life happens to adults, life happens to learners, and when things don't go our way or a crisis arises, Windmill Microlending is really here to sort of work with you on your repayment schedule and the frame of and your rate of pay, just to say, you know, we recognize that life happens. We recognize that crises can arise in your lives that maybe require you to change the original terms of your loan. And I love that Windmill is so flexible in ways that the banking institutions just aren't, because we're really looking at learners as people and not just lenders. And I think that's one of the things that I really, really love about this organization. The other thing too is once you've repaid your loan, you're quite welcome to come back and take another, obviously. Obviously, it's a sign that things are working for you and things are working for us when you're able to do that. So I just want you to know that even though you may have, you know, signing up with McMaster, you've taken a program and you're really happy, you're always welcome to come back and reapply for another program down the road. I did speak a little bit about the refugee loan program. There is no interest paid at any time. And you are eligible within 3 years of gaining your convention refugee status or protected person status in Canada. Those interest rate payments are actually covered entirely by donations, which is another thing that I really, really value about the organization, because we look at who has the greatest challenges to educational and job opportunities here in Canada, and it certainly would be refugees. And so we work really hard to eliminate those barriers. This is just really a chance for, this slide is really a chance for Windmill to toot its own horn. So we're looking at, well, and also our learners and the folks that have taken loans. So we're looking at a 3.4% increase in your earning rate once you've taken a loan with Windmill, because what that indicates is that you've been able to move up and taken, you know, either a certification, a diploma, or accreditation course, or just a skills and professional development course that has enabled you to move ahead in your career in such a way that you're increasing the amount of money that you're making on an annual basis, and not just sort of getting stuck or stalled because you just haven't had the opportunity before to take that extra step and that extra leap that you didn't have the financial backing to do. The other, I guess, point of pride for not only us, but for our the people who do work with Windmill as learners is the repayment rate. Actually, our repayment rate over COVID went up 1%. So we're sitting at 98%, which really is a testament to our clients and their desire to simply repay their loan and get on with it. And I think it also has to do with the relationship that we create with our lenders as well, where we're sort of guiding and checking in and making sure everything is okay, so that we're really facilitating, you know, not just facilitating the repayment, but just the whole experience itself. To date, we have approved $36.9 million in loans, which I think is astonishing. We are a government-funded institution. We are a not-for-profit. We do not make profit on our clients at all. This is another point of pride, I guess, for Windmill. And overall, you know, sort of those monies then sort of get divided into the 5,000, nearly 5,300 clients that we've had whose loans we've approved. So really, this slide is about the success, Windmill success, but it's also really about our client success. And we're really so touched and proud of our clients. What you will find in towards the last screen, and I'm sure that once this presentation is over and you either contact us through the information that you'll see on the last slide or through McMaster itself, because I've also provided the continuing ed folks with our information, that you will find that the application process is actually quite streamlined and quite easy. And I think this is really one of the other advantages to Windmill, that you're not going through this really complicated loan process. The other thing is too, from the time that you apply to the time that you are approved, and that usually can take 3 to 5 business days, your loan payment, your first loan payment, would arrive in your bank as early as 10 days later. And so if you're looking to, you thought you had this semester covered and the semester begins, it's kind of now, and you think, oh my gosh, I don't have it covered. I'm looking at these additional expenses, and not only that, I've now discovered that I can cover my laptop or some other additional expense that you've seen here spoken about today. You can come back, even though your program may be starting or have started, or maybe starting a week out, but don't panic, because we're here and we can help you. And again, the process is pretty streamlined and pretty easy, and our client success coaches are really lovely, and they'll be so happy to work with you. So this slide will provide you with, you'll just see the link to our application site, the application page on our website, but I think you have some additional information here. Yep. So it's www.microlending.org. I think, again, you will find that the people that you're working with at MAC will have additional information for you should you wish to apply. And again, of course, after the presentation, I'm more than happy to answer any question that you may have. When you do contact us, you can contact the intake department right away. And if you have any other questions about Windmill or its offerings, you can either ask them or my colleague Daniel Bowden-Hall, whose information you see here on the left. And I can certainly forward again this information to any of you who are here today that want to have it. Please feel free to reach out. I know that the folks on the other end at MAC have my contact information, so feel free to contact me directly as well, and I'm happy to answer your questions.